Honeymoon. Horror, Newlyweds, vanished in 1983, 11 years later. A bloody clue stuns all. A summer camping trip promised love and adventure for two newlyweds in 1983. 11 years later, a bloodied clue in a streambed unveils a chilling mystery. July 1983, Garibaldi Provincial Park, British Columbia. A vast wilderness where snow-capped peaks tower over dense forests of cedar and fir, and icy streams carve through valleys thick with mist. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp. Earth, a symphony of solitude that drew adventurers seeking escape. Claire Thompson, 24, a nurse with a radiant smile and eyes that sparkled with dreams, and Ben Larson, 26, a mechanic whose calloused hands belied a gentle heart, drove into this rugged paradise in their rusty 1978 Datsun pickup, its bed packed, with camping gear. Married just 3 weeks earlier in a modest Vancouver backyard ceremony, Claire in a thrift store lace dress, Ben in a borrowed Navy suit, they were the picture of young love, their laughter echoing as they planned a future. Of children, a fixer-upper home, and quiet evenings by a fireplace. Claire, ever the planner, packed a canvas tent, a Coleman stove, and a leather-bound journal to sketch wildflowers and jot love notes to Ben. Ben, practical but playful, brought fishing rods, a tackle box, and a portable cassette player loaded. With Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, its tinny speakers filling their campsite with music. Their chosen spot, a secluded clearing by Cheakamus Lake's gurgling stream, was a haven of joy. Claire teasing Ben as he fumbled with tent stakes, Ben grinning as he burned their first batch of hot dogs over a crackling fire. To their friends back in Vancouver, they were the perfect couple, their love a beacon in the uncertain tide of the 1980s. But by the morning of July 11th, their tent stood empty, its flaps unzipped, their belongings frozen in time, as if they'd stepped into the forest's embrace and were swallowed whole. The disappearance sent a jolt through Squamish, a gritty logging town nestled at the foot of the park, where news traveled fast in diners and church halls. Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP. Constable Jim Fraser, a local with a weathered face and a reputation for doggedness, arrived at the campsite on July 12th, summoned by a park ranger who'd found the abandoned setup during a routine patrol. The scene was hauntingly still. Claire's journal lay open on a sleeping bag, a half-sketched fern curling across the page, her pencil tucked in the spine. Ben's fishing rod leaned against a gnarled cedar, its bait tin unopened, a worm still, wriggling inside. A thermos of coffee, lukewarm to the touch, sat beside the stove, its lid askew, suggesting the couple hadn't been gone long. No blood stained the ground, no fabric was torn, no footprints strayed beyond the campsite's trampled grass. Claire's engagement ring, a delicate gold band with a tiny sapphire, a Larson family heirloom passed from Ben's grandmother, was missing, along with her green canvas backpack. Ben's wallet, a scuffed leather bifold holding $30 in crumpled bills and a Polaroid of Claire laughing at their wedding, was tucked inside the tent, odd for a man who kept it in his jeans. Fraser, squinting against the morning sun, jotted notes, in a spiral pad, his initial theory pointing to the wilderness itself. "Garibaldi's no joke," he told his team, his voice gruff. "Black bears roam these trails, and that stream's got rapids that'll sweep you away. They could have wandered, got lost, or met a grizzly." Within hours, a search operation launched. RCMP officers, park rangers, and dozens of volunteers. From Squamish, fanning out across the park, helicopters thumped overhead, their rotors slicing the silence, while divers probed the stream's icy depths and climbers rappelled down cliffs, calling Claire and Ben's names into the wind. Yet the forest, vast and indifferent, offered no answers. The story of the missing newlyweds gripped Canada, its tragedy amplified by the couple's youth and love. The Vancouver Sun ran front-page photos of Claire and Ben from their wedding. Claire's veil catching the breeze, Ben's arm around her waist, under headlines like "Honeymoon Horror." CBC aired footage of the search, with reporters in plaid jackets standing by the stream, speculating about bears and flash floods. Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret Thompson, drove 200 miles from Victoria, their faces etched with anguish as they joined volunteers. "Claire's a fighter," Ed told a reporter, his voice trembling. "She'd find a way to survive." Ben's mother, Ruth Larson, a widow living in Vancouver, arrived with red-rimmed eyes, clutching a photo of Ben as a boy. But Ben's older brother, Mark, 30, a real estate agent with a slick smile and a Rolex that clashed with Squamish's grit, stayed in Vancouver, citing a big deal at work. Friends whispered about Mark's absence, noting his strained bond with Ben. They weren't close, a co-worker said. Mark always seemed jealous of Ben's charm. Early leads trickled in, each a flicker of hope that dimmed under scrutiny. Tom Reed, a camper at a nearby site, told Fraser he saw a man in a plaid jacket near the campground at dusk on July 10th, arguing heatedly on a payphone by the ranger station. "He looked out of place, too city," Reed said, but couldn't recall his face. A hiker, Sarah Conway, reported hearing a woman scream near the stream that night, sharp and desperate. But Fraser dismissed it as a loon's cry, common in the park. A logger, Hank Miller, saw a dark pickup resembling Mark's Ford F-150 idling near the park entrance on July 9th, but no license plate was noted. Fraser's team found faint boot prints leading from the campsite to the stream, size 10. Men's, but a rainstorm on July 12th erased them. A bear track, deep and clawed, was spotted 50 yards away, fueling animal attack theories, though the tent bore no scratches. By mid-August, the search scaled back, funds drained, and the case went cold. The Larson's Datsun towed to a Squamish impound lot, Claire's journal locked in an RCMP evidence room, its pages a silent plea. 11 years later, on a crisp June morning in 1994, a kayaker named Greg Walsh paddled down a narrow stream feeding Cheakamus Lake, his paddle catching, on something in the gravelly streambed 2 miles from the 1983 campsite. He reached into the frigid water and pulled out a glinting object. Claire's engagement ring, its sapphire unmistakable, tied tightly with coarse twine to a tattered piece of flannel cloth, its fibers stiff with dried blood. Walsh, a retired teacher, recognized the ring from a faded missing persons poster in a Squamish cafe and called the RCMP, his hands shaking. The find, delivered to Sergeant Ellen Harper, a sharp, no-nonsense investigator leading the cold case unit, reignited the mystery with a jolt. Forensic tests confirmed the blood as human, type A positive, matching Claire's medical records, though 1994 DNA tech couldn't pinpoint further. The cloth, a red and blue flannel, matched a shirt Claire wore in a wedding photo, its tear suggesting violence. The twine, tied in a rare angler's loop, hinted at someone with fishing knowledge. Ben was an avid angler, but so were many locals. Harper, standing by the streambed under a gray sky, called the discovery a game changer. "No bear ties a ring to a cloth," she told her team. "This is foul play, deliberate and personal." The ring's location, far from the campsite, raised chilling questions. Was Claire killed at the stream, her ring left as a taunt? Was the cloth planted to mislead? And where was Ben, victim or something else? The media swarmed, with CBC airing archival 1983 footage alongside images of the ring, its sapphire glinting under studio lights. The Vancouver Sun dubbed it the Streambed Clue, splashing Claire and Ben's wedding photo across its pages, their smiles haunting. Claire's parents, now in their 60s, stood before cameras, their voices frail but resolute. "Someone knows what happened to our girl," Margaret said, clutching Ed's hand. Ruth Larson, Ben's mother, joined them, but dropped a bombshell. Ben's late father had left a $200,000 inheritance, split evenly between Ben and Mark, a sum that could have saved Mark's failing real estate ventures in 1983. Mark resented Ben's share, Ruth admitted, her voice heavy. He thought Ben didn't deserve it. Mark, now 41 and living in a modest Burnaby condo, dismissed the claim as grief-talking, his smile tight on TV. But Harper's team uncovered cracks in Mark's 1983 alibi. He claimed to be working late in Vancouver on July 10th, but a co-worker recalled him leaving at noon, destination unknown. A 1983 gas station receipt placed Mark's credit card in Squamish, 40 miles from the park, the day before the disappearance. Was Mark at the campground, driven by greed? The Streambed clue pointed to murder, but Ben's absence muddied the truth. Was he a victim, a witness, or complicit? The forest, silent and vast, seemed to mock the investigation, its secrets buried deeper than the stream's gravel. As Harper's team dug into Mark's past, a new lead emerged from an unlikely source. A retired hiker, Diane Foster, contacted the RCMP in 1994, offering a photo she'd taken in July 1983 while camping near Cheakamus Lake. The grainy snapshot, tucked in a dusty album, showed a man standing by a trailhead, his back to the camera, holding a hunting knife. His build, tall, broad-shouldered, and plaid jacket matched Mark's description, and the trail led to the Larson's campsite. Foster, now 70, hadn't thought much of it in 1983, but the ring's discovery chilled her. He didn't look like a camper, she told Harper. He looked angry, out of place. The photo, time-stamped July 10, 1983, placed a man resembling Mark at the scene, hours before the scream pierced the night. Was it proof of guilt or a cruel coincidence? The wilderness held its breath, daring investigators to unravel the truth. Diane. Foster's 1983 photo, now in RCMP hands, shows a man resembling Mark Larson near the campground, gripping a knife as dusk fell. 83. Newlyweds. Near the campground on a camping trip, 2 years later, stream clue found. A knife-wielding man haunted the trails in 1983, his shadow looming over a doomed honeymoon. But the search for Claire and Ben uncovered only silence, hiding a darker truth. July 1983, Garibaldi Provincial Park, British Columbia, a rugged expanse, where ancient cedars stretched toward jagged peaks, their roots tangled in soil damp from summer rains. The forest was alive with the hum of insects and the distant rush of streams, but for the residents of Squamish, a logging town 40 miles south, it had become a place of dread. Claire Thompson and Ben Larson, newlyweds whose love lit up Vancouver's gray streets, had vanished from their campsite by Cheakamus Lake, leaving behind a tent unzipped, a journal open to a half-drawn fern, and a thermos of coffee gone cold. The news spread like wildfire through Squamish's diners and churches, where locals swapped stories over steaming mugs and AM radios crackling with Gordon Lightfoot. By July 12th, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, had descended on the park, their boots crunching the gravel paths, determined to find the couple who'd promised each other forever just weeks before. But the wilderness, vast and unyielding, seemed to swallow every clue, daring searchers to unravel its secrets. Constable Jim Fraser, a Squamish native with a face carved by years of coastal winds, led the operation, his clipboard clutched tightly, as he stood at the Larson's campsite. The scene was a snapshot of interrupted lives. Claire's canvas tent sagged under morning dew, its stakes still taut. Ben's fishing rod leaned against a cedar, its reel glinting in the sun. A Coleman stove sat unused, a pack of hot dogs unopened nearby. Fraser's team noted the eerie order: no torn sleeping bags, no scattered gear, no blood on the grass. Claire's green backpack and her engagement ring, a gold band with a sapphire that caught the light, were missing, while Ben's wallet, holding $30 and a Polaroid of Claire's wedding day smile, lay inside the tent. "This ain't a robbery," Fraser muttered to his deputy, his voice low, "but it don't feel right." His initial theory pointed to the park's dangers. "Garibaldi's got black bears, grizzlies even, and that stream's a killer," he told volunteers, gesturing to the rushing water 20 yards away. They could have wandered off, met a bear, or slipped in the rapids. The search began with Urgency. A small army of RCMP officers, park rangers, and Squamish locals fanning out across the park's 195,000 hectares. Their shouts of, "Claire! Ben!" echoing off cliffs. The effort was staggering in scope, a testament to the community's resolve. Helicopters from Vancouver buzzed low, their rotors chopping through the mist, scanning trails and clearings. Rangers led ground teams along Squamish Lake's muddy paths, their flashlights cutting through dawn fog. Divers in neoprene suits braved the stream's icy currents, dragging grappling hooks along the gravelly bed, hoping to snag clothing or gear. Climbers rappelled down granite faces, checking crevices where a lost hiker might shelter. Volunteers, loggers, teachers, retirees, formed grids, combing forests thick with ferns and moss, their boots sinking into earth that smelled of decay. "It was like the whole town turned out," recalled Mary Ellis, a diner waitress who joined the search, her hands still calloused from gripping a walking stick. Yet the park offered little. A bear track, deep and clawed, 50 yards from the campsite, but no fur or scat near the tent. Faint boot prints, size 10 men's, leading to the stream, erased by a July 12th rainstorm. A snapped twig by the water's edge, but no blood or fabric. Fraser's log noted the coffee thermos, lukewarm at 9 a.m. on July 12th, suggesting the couple vanished late on July 10th or early July 11th. They didn't go far, he told his team. But where? The media descended, turning Squamish into a circus of satellite vans and notepads. The Vancouver Sun ran headlines like, "Honeymoon Vanished," with photos of Claire and Ben at their wedding, Claire's lace dress glowing, Ben's arm around her. CBC aired grainy footage of helicopters over Garibaldi, reporters in windbreakers speculating about bears and flash floods. The story tugged at Canada's heart, the tragedy of young love lost amplified by the couple's ordinariness. Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret Thompson, arrived from Victoria, their station wagon packed with hope and dread. Ed, a retired carpenter, joined search teams, his hands trembling as he called Claire's name. Margaret, a librarian, handed out flyers at Squamish's IGA, her eyes red but resolute. "Claire's smart, she'd survive," she told a reporter, clutching a photo of Claire in her nurse's uniform. Ben's mother, Ruth Larson, a widow with graying hair, stood by the campsite, her voice breaking as she spoke of Ben's kindness. But Ben's brother, Mark, 30, a Vancouver real estate agent with a slick demeanor, stayed away, claiming a critical deal kept him desk-bound. "Mark's always been about money," a family friend whispered at a church vigil. He and Ben barely talked. Leads emerged, each a thread that unraveled under scrutiny. Tom Reed, a camper at a neighboring site, told Fraser he saw a man in a plaid jacket near the ranger station payphone at dusk on July 10th, arguing heatedly. He was tall, city type, not a hiker, Reed said, sipping coffee at the RCMP post. But his memory of the face was fuzzy. Sarah Conway, a hiker on the Squamish Trail, reported a woman's scream piercing the night of July 10th, sharp and human, but Fraser chalked it up to a loon, its wail a park staple. Hank Miller, a logger, saw a dark Ford pickup like Mark's F-150 idling near the park entrance on July 9th, its driver obscured by dusk, but no plate was recorded. A ranger, Tim Holt, found a bear track near the stream, its claws etched deep, sparking talk of an attack, though the tent's pristine state argued otherwise. Fraser's team interviewed dozens, friends who saw Claire and Ben leave Vancouver on July 8th, a gas station clerk who sold Ben a map, a camper who shared their fire on July 9th, but no one saw them after 7 p.m. on July 10th. The stream, its rapids, frothing white, was dragged for days, yielding only branches and pebbles. By late July, exhaustion set in, volunteers dwindling as hope faded. The search wasn't flawless, its cracks widening with time. Fraser's focus on bears and accidents sidelined human suspects. The boot prints by the stream weren't cast before. The rain, a rookie error. Reed's payphone man was never sketched, his story buried in Fraser's log. Conway's scream report was dismissed without a follow-up. her frustration ignored. Miller's pickup sighting wasn't cross-checked with Mark's vehicle, a missed chance. Budget cuts forced divers to skip deeper stream pools, and helicopters were grounded by August 1st. "We did what we could," Fraser told reporters, his jaw tight, but locals grumbled about haste. Claire's parents stayed longest, Ed scouring trails until his boots wore thin, Margaret praying at a makeshift shrine by the lake. Ruth Larson returned to Vancouver, her son's wallet in her purse, its Polaroid of Claire creased from touch. Mark sent a check for search funds but never visited, his absence a quiet scandal. By September, the case went cold. The Larsons, Datsun rusting in an impound lot, Claire's journal gathering dust in evidence, its fern sketch a frozen memory. The community tried to move on, but the mystery lingered, a wound reopened by every Garibaldi hiker's tale. Squamish's diners buzzed with theories. A grizzly dragged the couple off, their bones deep in a cave. They'd slipped into the stream, swept to a hidden gorge, or something darker, a stranger in the woods. Mark's name surfaced in whispers. His flashy lifestyle, Rolex, leather jacket, clashing with Ben's simplicity. Ruth let slip a detail at a 1983 vigil. Ben's late father left a $200,000 inheritance, split evenly between the brothers, a fortune in 1983. Mark, drowning in real estate debts, had argued with Ben over the split, Ruth said, her voice heavy with regret. "Mark thought Ben didn't need it with Claire and all," she told a friend. The inheritance, tied to a family trust, would have gone to Mark if Ben died without heirs, a motive that hung unspoken. Mark brushed it off, telling a reporter, "We had our spats, but I loved my brother." Yet his absence from the search, and that gas station receipt placing him in Squamish on July 9th, gnawed at locals. As weeks turned to months, Garibaldi's trails grew quiet, the search a memory etched in faded flyers. Claire and Ben's love story became a cautionary tale, told by campfires where hikers clutched their knives tighter. The forest, with its towering pines and shadowed streams, seemed to guard its secrets, mocking the RCMP's maps and radios. Fraser filed his report, its pages thick with dead ends, and moved on to other cases. But for Claire's parents, Ruth, and the volunteers, who'd shouted their names, the silence was deafening. They didn't know that 2 years later, a kayaker's find would crack the case open, or that a forgotten police log buried in Fraser's files held a clue that could have changed everything. In 1985, a rediscovered 1983 RCMP log surfaces, noting a disturbance call near the campground on July 10th, with a man's voice shouting, "Leave her alone!" a cry no one followed up. A desperate cry echoed in a 1983 police log, ignored by those sworn to protect. The RCMP's errors buried Claire and Ben's fate deeper than the forest floor. The summer of 1983 had faded into memory for most of Squamish, British Columbia. But, for the families of Claire Thompson and Ben Larson, it was a wound that refused to heal. The Newlyweds, whose love had blossomed under Vancouver's rainy skies, had vanished from their Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving behind a tent unzipped, a journal open to a fern sketch, and a community grasping for answers. The Royal. Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, led by Constable Jim Fraser, had mounted a massive search, helicopters slicing through mist, divers probing icy streams, volunteers shouting into the wilderness, but found only silence. By September 1983, the case was cold, the Larsons' Datsun pickup rusting in an impound lot, Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret Thompson, returning to Victoria with heavy hearts, and Ben's mother, Ruth Larson, clutching her son's wallet, its Polaroid of Claire creased from touch. Whispers of bears, rapids, or foul play lingered in Squamish's diners, but the truth seemed locked in Garibaldi's shadowed trails. A chilling clue buried in Fraser's files could have changed everything, but it lay forgotten until a kayaker's discovery in 1994 forced the past to speak. The 1983 investigation, hailed as exhaustive, was riddled with flaws that would haunt investigators years later. Fraser, a Squamish native whose gruff demeanor masked a deep-rooted love for his town, had zeroed in on the wilderness itself as the culprit. "Garibaldi's a beast," he told his team, chain-smoking players' cigarettes as he pored over maps. "Bears, streams, cliffs, they don't leave traces." His focus on animal attacks and accidents shaped every decision, blinding him to signs of human involvement. A bear track, 50 yards from the campsite, fueled his theory, though the tent's pristine state, no claw marks, no torn fabric, contradicted it. Faint boot prints, size 10 men's, led from the campsite to the stream, but Fraser didn't cast them before a July 12th rainstorm erased them, a misstep that stung in hindsight. The coffee thermos, lukewarm when found, suggested Claire and Ben, vanished late on July 10th or early July 11th, yet Fraser didn't cordon the site for forensics, assuming the couple wandered off. "We didn't have CSI back then," he later told a reporter, defensive. But the errors piled up, each a missed chance to crack the case. Witness accounts, dismissed or buried, painted a troubling picture. Tom Reed, a camper who saw a plaid-jacketed man arguing on a payphone near the ranger station at dusk on July 10th, gave a statement Fraser barely noted. "City guy, tall, sounded angry," Reed said, but no sketch was made, no follow-up pursued. Sarah Conway, a hiker who heard a woman scream near the stream that night, insisted it was human, not a loon, but Fraser waved it off, citing the park's wildlife. "Loons sound like ghosts," he told her, his tone final. Hank Miller, a logger, reported a dark Ford pickup like Ben's brother Mark's idling near the park entrance on July 9th, but Fraser didn't cross-check it, assuming it was a local's. A ranger, Tim Holt, logged a snapped twig by the stream, but no soil samples were taken. The RCMP interviewed dozens, friends who saw Claire and Ben leave Vancouver, a gas station clerk who sold Ben a map, but didn't canvass Squamish bars or motels for strangers. Budget cuts didn't help. Divers skipped deeper stream pools, and helicopters were grounded by August. Fraser's log, a spiral notebook crammed with scribbles, was filed away, its pages holding a bombshell no one read. That bombshell, a disturbance call logged on July 10, 1983, surfaced in 1994, when Sergeant Ellen Harper, a sharp-eyed RCMP cold case investigator, reopened the file. The call, received at 9:47 p.m. by a dispatcher in Squamish, reported a man's voice shouting, "Leave her alone," near Cheakamus Lake, followed by static. The dispatcher, swamped with search coordination, noted it, but didn't relay it to Fraser, assuming it was unrelated. "We were stretched thin," the dispatcher, now retired, told Harper, guilt in her voice. The log entry, buried under bear sighting reports, suggested foul play, but in 1983 it was overlooked, a thread left, dangling. Harper, standing in the RCMP's cluttered evidence room, felt a chill. "This wasn't a bear," she told her team. "Someone was there and we missed it." The 1994 revival came on the heels of a kayaker's find. Claire's engagement ring, its sapphire glinting, tied with twine to a bloodied flannel cloth in a streambed 2 miles from the campsite. Forensic tests confirmed the blood as human, type A positive, matching Claire's medical records, though 1994 DNA tech was too crude for precision. The cloth, red and blue flannel, matched a shirt Claire wore in a wedding photo, its tear suggesting a struggle. The twine, tied in a rare angler's loop, pointed to someone with fishing knowledge. Ben was an avid angler, but so were locals, including Mark. Harper's team re-examined Fraser's files, finding more oversights. The campsite hadn't been swept for fibers or prints. The boot prints weren't photographed. Reed's payphone man and Conway's scream were never cross-referenced. A gas station receipt, placing Mark's credit card in Squamish on July 9th, was filed without scrutiny. Fraser was a good cop, but he saw what he wanted, Harper said, her voice clipped. Mark Larson, Ben's older brother, loomed larger as Harper dug deeper. In 1983, Mark, 30, was a Vancouver real estate agent whose flashy lifestyle, Rolex, leather jacket, red Corvette, masked mounting debts. His absence from the search, citing a big deal, raised eyebrows, as did Ruth Larson's revelation. Ben's late father left a $200,000 inheritance, split evenly between the brothers. Mark, struggling with failed condo projects, had argued with Ben over the split, Ruth said, her voice heavy. Mark thought Ben was wasting his share, marrying young, she told Harper in 1994. The trust's terms were clear. If Ben died without heirs, Mark got his share, a motive that turned heads. Mark's 1983 alibi, working late in Vancouver on July 10th, crumbled when a co-worker, questioned in 1994, recalled Mark leaving at noon, saying he had family business. The Squamish gas receipt, dated July 9th, placed him 40 miles from the park, not Vancouver. A 1983 photo from hiker Diane Foster, showing a man resembling Mark with a knife near the campground, added weight. Was Mark the payphone man Reed saw, or the voice in the disturbance call? Subplots thickened the mystery, each a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Pete Walsh, a drifter arrested in Squamish in 1983 with a bloody knife, was released when tests showed animal blood, but Harper learned he frequented a bar Mark visited. Walsh bragged about odd jobs, a bartender told her, hinting at a hired hand. Dan Cole, a local poacher seen near the park with a rifle, was questioned in 1983 but cleared, his alibi shaky but untested. Cole's camp, raided in 1984, had flannel scraps but no blood match. Harper wondered, was Walsh or Cole a red herring, or Mark's accomplice? Claire's journal, retrieved from evidence in 1994, offered a chilling clue. An entry dated July 5, 1983, described a fight with Mark at a family dinner. He kept pushing Ben about the money, saying we didn't need it. His eyes scared me. Claire's words, penned in her neat cursive, suggested Mark's obsession. Wasn't just financial, it was personal. Squamish's 1983 atmosphere, alive with nostalgia, framed the tragedy. Diners like the How Sound Inn buzzed with gossip, their jukeboxes playing Springsteen and Neil Young. CB radios crackled in loggers' trucks, spreading search updates. Vancouver's neon-lit bars, where Mark cut deals, contrasted with Garibaldi's. Misty trails, where volunteers trudged through mud. The RCMP station, a squat building with flickering fluorescence, was chaos. Phones ringing, maps pinned to walls, Fraser's ashtray overflowing. Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, clung to hope. Ed's boots worn from trails, Margaret's flyers peeling from telephone poles. Ruth Larson, her faith shaken, lit candles at St. John's Anglican, praying for Ben. Mark's absence and his gas receipt fueled rumors, but without the 1994 ring, the case might have stayed cold. Harper's team faced a daunting task: untangle 1983's missteps to find the truth. The disturbance call, Claire's journal, and Mark's lies pointed to foul play, but Ben's role, victim or accomplice, remained murky. The Streambed clue, with its bloodied cloth, screamed murder, but the forest's silence mocked every step. As Harper flipped through Fraser's log, a new lead emerged, buried in a volunteer's 1983 statement, overlooked for a decade. A 1983 volunteer's statement, rediscovered in 1994, claims he saw a man resembling Mark arguing with a woman by the stream on July 10th, hours before the scream. Claire's journal exposed a family rift over wealth, its words heavy with fear. Was Mark's greed enough to spark a murder in the wilderness? By 1994, the mystery of Claire Thompson and Ben Larson's 1983 disappearance had clawed its way back into the headlines, a wound reopened by a kayaker's chilling find in a British Columbia streambed. The Newlyweds, whose love had bloomed amidst Vancouver's drizzle, had vanished from their Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving a tent unzipped, a journal open, and a thermos of coffee gone cold. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, search, led by Constable Jim Fraser, had scoured trails and streams, but found only silence, its flaws buried in a forgotten log. 11 years later, Sergeant Ellen Harper's cold case team faced a daunting task: Untangle Fraser's missteps to uncover the truth. Claire's engagement ring, tied with twine to a bloodied flannel cloth, screamed foul play, its sapphire glinting like an accusation. A volunteer's 1983 statement, rediscovered in 1994, placed a man resembling Ben's brother, Mark Larson, arguing with a woman by the stream hours before a scream pierced the night. Mark, a flashy real estate agent with debts piling high, stood to gain a fortune if Ben died. The inheritance, a $200,000 shadow, loomed over the case, its weight pulling Harper deeper into a web of greed and betrayal. Mark Larson, 30 in 1983, was a man of contrasts, charming in Vancouver's neon-lit bars but cold to his family's grief. His Rolex and red Corvette clashed with Squamish's gritty logging town, where flannel and work boots ruled. Ben, his younger brother, was the opposite, a mechanic with calloused hands, content with Claire's love and a rusty Datsun. Their father's death in 1981 left a $200,000 trust, split evenly, but Mark, drowning in failed condo deals, saw Ben's share as a lifeline. Mark thought Ben was throwing it away, marrying young, Ruth Larson, their mother, told Harper. In 1994, her voice heavy with regret. The trust's terms were stark. If Ben died without heirs, Mark inherited his share, a motive that turned whispers into suspicion. Claire's journal, found in RCMP evidence, painted a chilling picture. An entry from July 5, 1983, described a family dinner where Mark cornered Ben about the money, his voice sharp, his eyes like a predator's. Claire wrote, "He scares me, the way he looks at Ben. It's not just the money, it's something darker." Her words, inked in neat cursive, sent a shiver through Harper's team. Harper's investigation zeroed in on Mark's 1983 movements, each clue tightening the noose. His alibi, working late in Vancouver on July 10th, the night Claire and Ben likely vanished, crumbled when a co-worker, Gary Holt, recalled Mark leaving at noon, saying he had family business up north. A gas station receipt, dated July 9th, placed Mark's credit card in Squamish, 40 miles from Garibaldi, not Vancouver. A 1983 photo from hiker Diane Foster showed a man resembling Mark, tall and broad-shouldered, gripping a hunting knife near the campground trailhead on July 10th. Tom Reed, a camper who saw a plaid-jacketed man arguing on a payphone that evening, described a similar build, though his face was shadowed. A 1983 volunteer, John Carver, told Fraser he saw a man like Mark arguing with a woman by the stream, her voice rising in panic, but Fraser dismissed it as campers bickering. In 1994, Carver, now gray-haired, stood by his story, telling Harper, "She sounded scared, and he was angry. I should have done more." The stream, its rapids a constant roar, was where Claire's ring and cloth were found, tying Mark to the scene. Mark's financial troubles in 1983 added fuel to the motive. Harper's team uncovered bank records showing large withdrawals, $10,000 in June, $15,000 in July, tied to a failing condo project in Burnaby. Mark's real estate firm, Larson Properties, was hemorrhaging cash, with creditors circling. A colleague, Susan Lee, told Harper Mark was desperate, always chasing deals that fell through. A bar tab from Squamish's How Sound Inn, dated July 9th, showed Mark buying drinks for locals, unusual for a man claiming to be in Vancouver. He was asking about Garibaldi trails, the bartender recalled, like he was planning a hike, but he didn't look the type. Mark's flashy lifestyle, leather jackets, gold chains, clashed with his debts, suggesting a man living beyond his means, desperate for a windfall. The inheritance, $200,000 in 1983 dollars, could have saved him, but only if Ben was gone. Subplots muddied the waters, each a thread Harper tugged with care. Pete Walsh, a drifter arrested in 1983 with a bloody knife, was cleared when tests showed deer blood, but his ties to Mark raised flags. Walsh frequented the How Sound Inn, where Mark was seen July 9th. A 1994 interview with Walsh, now a handyman, in Kamloops, revealed he'd done odd jobs for a city guy in 1983, though he denied murder. "I scared some campers for cash, that's all," he told Harper, his eyes shifty. Dan Cole, a poacher seen near Garibaldi with a rifle, had a camp raided in 1984, yielding flannel scraps but no blood. Cole, questioned in 1994, claimed he was hunting deer, his alibi backed by a friend, but shaky. Was Walsh or Cole a hired hand or a distraction? Harper wondered if Mark, with his charm and cash, had enlisted help to stage a crime in the wilderness. The Streambed clue found in 1994 anchored the case. The bloodied cloth, matching Claire's flannel shirt, bore splatter patterns, not soaking, suggesting a violent act. The twine, tied in an angler's loop, hinted at fishing expertise, Ben's hobby, but Mark had fished with him as a boy. Forensic tests confirmed the blood as type A positive, Claire's type, though DNA was inconclusive. The ring's placement, 2 miles from the campsite, suggested intent, dropped in a struggle, or planted to mislead. Harper's team re-examined Fraser's 1983 log, finding a ranger's note about a snapped twig by the stream, ignored at the time. This was no accident, Harper told her team, her voice firm. Someone wanted Claire gone, and Ben was collateral, or complicit. Squamish's 1983 world, rich with nostalgia, framed the tragedy. Diners served coffee in chipped mugs. Jukeboxes blaring Gordon Lightfoot. CB radios crackled in loggers' trucks, sharing search updates. Vancouver's foggy streets, where Mark cut deals, contrasted with Garibaldi's misty forests, where volunteers trudged through mud. Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, haunted Squamish, Ed's boots worn, Margaret's flyers fading. Ruth Larson lit candles, her faith fraying. Mark's absence and his Squamish bar tab fueled gossip, but without the ring, the case stayed cold. Harper's 1994 probe, with its focus on Mark, felt like justice delayed, but a new clue threatened to unravel her progress. A 1983 pawnshop receipt, found in 1994, shows Mark sold a ring matching Claire's description, dated July 15, 1983, days after the disappearance. A pawned ring points to Mark's betrayal, its sapphire a silent witness. But the bloodied cloth in the stream whispers a darker, more tangled truth. In 1994, the mystery of Claire Thompson and Ben Larson's 1983 disappearance gripped British Columbia, its tendrils reaching back to a summer of love and loss. The Newlyweds, whose wedding vows echoed in a Vancouver backyard, had vanished from their Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving a tent open, a journal unfinished, and a community shattered. The RCMP's 1983 search, marred by missteps, found no trace, but a 1994 kayaker's discovery, Claire's engagement ring tied to a bloodied flannel cloth, reignited the case. Sergeant Ellen Harper's cold case team, sifting through Constable Jim Fraser's flawed files, uncovered a web of clues pointing to Ben's brother, Mark Larson. A pawnshop receipt, dated July 15, 1983, showed Mark selling a ring matching Claire's, its sapphire glinting in a Vancouver shop days after the couple vanished. Mark, a real estate agent drowning in debt, stood to gain a $200,000 inheritance if Ben died, his alibi crumbling under Harper's scrutiny. The Streambed clue, with its blood-soaked cloth, held secrets that could unravel the case, or deepen its shadows. The Streambed find, 2 miles from the 1983 campsite, was a forensic puzzle. The cloth, red and blue flannel torn at the seam, matched a shirt Claire wore in a wedding photo, its fibers stiff with dried blood. A 1994 retest, using advanced spectrometry, showed splatter patterns, high-velocity droplets, not soaking, suggesting a violent blow, not a fall. This wasn't an accident, forensic analyst Dr. Laura Chen told Harper, pointing to the cloth under a lab's harsh lights. The blood, type A positive, matched Claire's medical records, though DNA tech couldn't confirm identity. The twine, coarse and tied in a rare angler's loop, pointed to fishing expertise. Ben, an avid angler, tied such knots, but Mark had joined him on childhood fishing trips, a detail Ruth Larson confirmed. The ring, its gold band scratched but intact, was found snagged in streambed gravel, as if dropped in haste, or placed to be found. "It's too perfect," Harper mused, standing by the stream, its rapids a low roar. "A bear doesn't tie knots. This was staged." Harper's team dove into Mark's 1983 actions. The pawnshop receipt a damning lead. The shop, a dingy Vancouver pawn on Hastings Street, kept meticulous records. Owner Sam Klein, now 70, identified Mark from a 1983 photo, recalling a nervous guy in a flashy jacket, selling a sapphire ring for $300. He said it was his mother's, but he was sweating, Klein told Harper. The receipt, stamped July 15, 1983, matched Claire's ring description: gold, small sapphire, Larson heirloom. Mark, questioned in 1994, claimed he sold a client's ring to cover a deal, but no client existed, and his bank showed no deposit. A co-worker, Gary Holt, told Harper Mark was jumpy that week, leaving work early and avoiding calls. A 1983 hiker's photo from Diane Foster's album showed Mark's Ford pickup near the stream on July 10th, a plaid-jacketed man nearby, matching Tom Reed's payphone witness. Was Mark at the scene, disposing of Claire's ring? Mark's lies piled up, each a crack in his facade. His July 10th alibi, working late in Vancouver, was debunked by Holt's statement and a Squamish gas receipt from July 9th. A bar tab from the How Sound Inn, dated July 9th, showed Mark asking locals about Garibaldi trails, odd for a man claiming no park visit. Harper's team found a 1983 bank withdrawal, $5,000 cash, on July 8th, untraceable but suspicious. He was covering something, Harper told her deputy, her eyes on Mark's file. A 1983 volunteer, John Carver, saw Mark arguing with a woman by the stream. Her voice panicked, hours before Sarah Conway's scream report. Carver's 1994 statement added detail. She wore flannel, like the cloth you found. Was it Claire, caught in Mark's trap? Red herrings complicated the case, each a shadow to chase. Pete Walsh, the 1983 drifter with a bloody knife, was linked to Mark via the How Sound Inn. Walsh, interviewed in 1994, admitted to scaring campers for cash but denied murder, his knife retested as deer blood. Dan Cole, the poacher, had flannel scraps in his 1984 camp but no blood match. Cole, now a recluse, told Harper he saw a pickup like Mark's near the park but kept quiet, fearing trouble. "I hunt, I don't kill people," he growled. Harper wondered, did Mark hire Walsh or cross paths with Cole, or were they distractions? A 1983 bear attack survivor, interviewed in 1994, described similar tracks near the campsite, but the cloth splatter ruled out animals. The stream bed, with its icy currents, held the truth, but its gravel kept silent. Squamish's 1983 world, steeped in nostalgia, colored the narrative. Diners like the How Sound Inn served pie under neon signs, jukeboxes playing Neil Young. Loggers swapped stories on CB radios, their voices crackling through Ben's old garage, where his toolbox sat untouched. Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, haunted the trails, Ed's flashlight dimming, Margaret's flyers curling in rain. Ruth Larson, Ben's mother, stared at Ben's photo, her candles flickering. Mark's Vancouver, all smog and ambition, clashed with Garibaldi's misty pines, where volunteers faced the woods. The 1994 probe revived their pain, but the streambed clue offered hope and dread. Claire's journal, with Claire's fear of Mark, echoed in Harper's mind, but a letter found in her parents' attic turned the case upside down. A 1983 letter from Claire, found in her parents' attic in 1994, reveals she feared Mark's dangerous obsession with Ben, hinting he'd do anything to secure their family inheritance. Suspects in the mist, Claire sensed Mark's darkness before she vanished, her letter a cry from the past. But other shadows prowled the forest, hiding truths in the 1983 mist. The 1994 investigation into Claire Thompson and Ben Larson's 1983 disappearance was a wound that refused to close, its pain etched into British Columbia's rugged heart. The Newlyweds, whose love was a beacon in Vancouver's grey streets, had vanished from their Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving a tent empty, a journal open, and a mystery unsolved. The 1983 RCMP search, led by Constable Jim Fraser, was marred by errors, missed boot prints, ignored screams, buried logs. A 1994 kayaker's find, Claire's engagement ring tied to a bloodied flannel cloth, pointed to murder, with Ben's brother, Mark Larson, as the prime suspect. A letter from Claire, found in Claire's 1994 attic, revealed her fear of Mark's dangerous obsession with Ben, his greed for a $200,000 inheritance driving a chilling motive. Sergeant Ellen Harper, leading Harper's cold case team, faced a labyrinth of suspects and lies, with Mark's alibi in tatters. The Streambed clue, its blood splattered and twined, suggested a killer's hand, but other figures, drifters, poachers, and even Ben, cast shadows in the mist. Mark Larson in 1983 was a man teetering on the edge, his real estate empire crumbling under debts of. His flashy lifestyle, Rolex, Corvette, leather jackets, hid a desperation that Harper's 1994 uncovered team. Mark's $200,000 inheritance share, tied to his father's trust, would have doubled if Ben died without heirs, a motive confirmed by Claire's letter from Claire. Mark said Ben's marriage was a mistake, Ruth, Ben's mother, told Harper, her voice heavy with regret. Mark's 1983 movements, 1983, a gas receipt in Squamish, a pawned ring, a bar tab, placed him near at Garibaldi. A 1983, hiker's photo showed his pickup near the stream. A volunteer saw him arguing with a woman. A 1994 bank re-examination showed $5,000 in cash withdrawn on July 8th, untraceable, hinting at a plan. Mark, questioned in 1994, denied everything, his smile tight. But his plaid jacket matched Tom Reed's payphone witness, and his knife matched Diane Foster's photo. Was Mark the killer, or a man caught in a web of scheme? Other suspects added layers to the mystery. Pete Walsh, a drifter arrested in 1983 with a bloody knife, was cleared by animal blood tests for animal blood. But his 1994 claim of scaring campers for cash linked him to Mark at the How Sound Inn. Walsh, now a handyman, told Harper he'd met a slick guy in a bar who paid for a job, but swore it was theft, not murder. Dan Cole, the poacher, was seen near the park with a rifle, his rifle in 1983. His camp had flannel scraps, but no blood. Cole in 1994, admitted seeing a pickup like Mark's but stayed quiet, fearing to avoid arrest. For poaching. I don't kill people, he said, his voice gruff. Harper's team probed Walsh's and Cole's ties. Were they hired or distractions? A 1983 bear attack survivor's story of tracks near the campsite revived animal theories, but the cloth's blood splatter ruled it out. The stream bed, with its icy currents, held the crime scene, but its secrets were elusive. The stream bed clue remained central, its forensic details haunting. The cloth's blood, type A positive, matched Claire's, its splatter suggesting a blade or blunt force. The twine's angler's loop tied to Ben's fishing hobby or Mark's childhood skills. The ring, scratched but intact, seemed placed, not lost in a struggle. A 1983 ranger's note about a snapped twig by the stream, ignored by Fraser, suggested a scuffle. Harper's 1994 team found no new streambed evidence, but the cloth's tear matched Claire's shirt in a wedding photo. Someone wanted us to find this, Harper said, her voice low, standing by the stream's gravel. Subplots deepened the case, each a thread to unravel. A 1994 tip claimed a man resembling Ben was seen in Alberta in 1984, disheveled but alive with a photo of Claire. The man, a drifter named Ray, had no ID, and the lead fizzled, but Harper wondered, did Ben escape, or was it a hoax? Claire's letter, dated July 6, 1983, described Mark's threats to Ben over the inheritance, hinting at a plan. He said Ben wouldn't need the money soon, she wrote, her words chilling. A 1983 camper's diary, donated in 1994, noted a man like Mark near the stream, his voice angry, but no scream. Was Ben involved, or a victim? Squamish's 1983 atmosphere, rich with nostalgia, framed the tragedy. Diners buzzed with gossip, jukeboxes playing Gordon Lightfoot. CB radios crackled in loggers' trucks, sharing search tales. Vancouver's neon bars, where Mark cut deals, contrasted with Garibaldi's misty trails, where volunteers faced the cold. Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, haunted Squamish, their hope fading. Ruth lit candles, her faith shaken. Mark's absence fueled rumors, but the 1994 probe brought hope and dread. Harper's focus on Mark was shaken by a new clue, hidden in plain sight. A 1983 RCMP photo, found in 1994, shows Mark's pickup near the park, with a bloodstain on the tailgate, confirmed as human in a forensic test. Blood on Mark's truck ties him to the crime, a stain that won't wash away. But a new clue casts doubt on Ben's innocence, twisting the knife deeper. By 1994, the disappearance of Claire Thompson and Ben Larson had become a haunting saga, its roots buried in the summer of 1983. The Newlyweds, whose love filled Vancouver's modest streets, vanished from their Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving a tent open, a journal unfinished, and a mystery that gripped British Columbia. The RCMP's 1983 search, flawed and frantic, found no trace, but a 1994 kayaker's discovery, Claire's ring tied to a bloodied cloth, pointed to murder. Sergeant Ellen Harper's cold case team, untangling Constable Jim Fraser's errors, honed in on Ben's brother, Mark Larson, whose $200,000 inheritance motive loomed large. A 1983 RCMP photo, showing Mark's pickup with a bloodstain on the tailgate, confirmed as human, tightened the noose. Mark's lies, his alibi, his pawned ring, his Squamish bar tab, piled high. But a new clue threatened to shift the narrative, casting Ben, the loving husband, in a darker light. The bloodstain on Mark's 1983 Ford F-150, found in a 1994 forensic test, was a breakthrough. The truck, impounded in 1985 for unpaid tickets, sat in a Vancouver lot, its bed weathered but intact. Analysts, using luminol, found traces of blood in the tailgate's seams, type A positive, matching Claire's medical records. "It's not deer blood," Dr. Laura Chen told Harper, her lab coat crisp under fluorescent lights. This was cleaned but not well. The stain, small but damning, suggested Claire's body, or her blood, was in the truck. Mark, questioned in 1994, claimed he'd hauled game meat for a friend, but no friend surfaced, and his bank showed a $200 car wash payment on July 16, 1983. A 1983 hiker's photo placed Mark's pickup near the stream on July 10th, tying him to the crime scene. Harper's team wondered. Did Mark kill Claire by the stream, load her into his truck and pawn her ring to cover tracks? A new clue, found in a 1994 stream sweep, muddied the waters. Divers, probing the gravel near the ring's site, recovered a rusted hunting knife, its blade etched with faint initials, BL. Ben Larson? The knife, buried in silt, bore no blood but matched a brand Ben owned, per Ruth Larson. Ben had a set of those, for fishing, she told Harper, her voice trembling. Was the knife dropped in a struggle, or planted to frame Ben? Harper's team re-examined Ben's role. Claire's letter, found in her parents' attic, described Mark's threats, but a July 6, 1983 entry hinted at Ben's stress. Ben's quiet lately, says Mark's pushing him too hard. Did Ben know Mark's plan, or was he coerced? Ruth admitted Ben and Mark fought over the inheritance days before. The trip, Mark calling Ben a fool for marrying. Was Ben a victim or complicit? Mark's 1983 web of deceit unraveled further. His alibi, working late on July 10th, was debunked by co-worker Gary Holt and a Squamish gas receipt. A pawnshop receipt showed him selling Claire's ring on July 15. A bar tab from July 9th at the Howe Sound Inn linked him to drifter Pete Walsh, who admitted to scaring campers for cash. Walsh, re-interviewed in 1994, denied murder, but recalled Mark asking about quiet spots in Garibaldi. Dan Cole. The poacher saw Mark's pickup near the park, but his flannel scraps tested clean. Harper's team found a 1983 bank withdrawal, $5,000 cash, on July 8th, suggesting Mark paid someone, perhaps Walsh. A volunteer's 1983 statement about Mark arguing with a woman by the stream and Sarah Conway's scream report pointed to a violent act. The bloodstain on Mark's truck sealed his guilt, but Ben's knife raised questions. Red herrings kept Harper guessing. A 1994 tip about a man resembling Ben in Alberta, 1984, carrying Claire's photo, was traced to a drifter, Ray, with no ID. He was a nobody, the tipster said, but the photo gnawed at Harper. A bear attack survivor's 1983 story of tracks near the campsite was dismissed by the cloth splatter. Cole's poaching camp, with its flannel, was a dead end. Walsh's knife, retested, showed no human blood. The streambed clue, cloth, ring, twine, remained central, its angler's loop tying to Ben or Mark. A 1983 ranger's note about a snapped twig suggested a struggle, but no new evidence surfaced. "We're close," Harper told her team. But Ben's knife changes things. Squamish's 1983 world, alive with nostalgia, framed the pain. Diners buzzed, jukeboxes playing Neil Young. CB radios crackled in loggers' trucks, sharing search tales. Vancouver's neon bars, where Mark schemed, contrasted with Garibaldi's misty trails, where Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, searched. Ruth lit candles, her hope fading. Mark's lies and the truck's blood fueled 1994's probe, but Ben's knife sparked doubt. Harper's focus wavered as a witness's claim turned the case upside down. A 1983 witness, interviewed in 1994, claims she saw Claire struggling with a man near the stream, not Mark, but resembling Ben, hours before the scream. A witness swears Ben turned on Claire that night, her words a shattering betrayal. Could the loving husband have been a traitor in the forest's shadows? The 1994 investigation into Claire Thompson and Ben Larson's 1983 disappearance was a relentless pursuit, its stakes rising with every clue. The Newlyweds, whose love lit up Vancouver's modest corners, vanished from their Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving a tent open, a journal half-written, and a mystery that haunted. British Columbia. The RCMP's 1983 search, flawed and frantic, found no trace, but a 1994 kayaker's find, Claire's ring tied to a bloodied cloth, screamed murder. Sergeant Ellen Harper's cold case team targeted Ben's brother, Mark Larson, whose $200,000 inheritance motive and bloodstained truck pointed to guilt. But a 1983 witness, interviewed in 1994, dropped a bombshell. She saw Claire struggling with a man resembling Ben, not Mark, by the stream hours before a scream pierced the night. The rusted knife, etched BL, found in the streambed, fueled doubt. Was Ben, the devoted husband, a victim or a villain? The witness, Linda Hayes, a 1983 camper, was 60 in 1994, her memory sharp despite time. "I was by the stream, fetching water," she told Harper, her hands clasped. "I saw a woman in flannel, struggling with a man, tall, dark hair, like Ben from the news. She pushed him, said, 'Don't do this.' I ran back to my tent, scared." Hayes didn't report it in 1983, fearing involvement, but the ring's discovery spurred her to speak. Her description matched Ben's build, not Mark's broader frame, and the flannel aligned with Claire's shirt. Harper's team re-examined the knife, its BL initials damning. Ruth Larson confirmed Ben owned such a knife, used for fishing, but Mark had access to Ben's gear. Was Ben coerced by Mark, or did he lure Claire to the stream? Claire's letter, found in her parents' attic, noted Ben's stress over Mark's pressure, but no hint of betrayal. A July 6, 1983, journal. Entry read, "Ben's scared, says Mark won't stop. Was Ben trapped or complicit?" Mark's guilt remained central, his lies unraveling. The bloodstain on his 1983 truck, type A positive, matched Claire's blood. A pawnshop receipt showed him selling Claire's ring on July 15th. His July 10th alibi, working late, was debunked by a co-worker and a Squamish gas receipt. A bar tab linked him to drifter Pete Walsh, who admitted to scaring campers. A 1983 hiker's photo placed Mark's pickup near the stream, and a volunteer saw him arguing with a woman. Harper's 1994 interrogation of Mark, now 41, was tense. Ben was unstable, Mark claimed, citing a 1982 bar fight where Ben broke a bottle. No police report existed, and co-workers called Ben gentle. Mark's $5,000 cash withdrawal on July 8, 1983, suggested a payoff, perhaps to Walsh. The truck's bloodstain and Claire's pawned ring painted Mark as the mastermind, but Ben's role gnawed at Harper. Subplots added layers, each a test of truth. Pete Walsh, re-interviewed in 1994, denied murder, his knife clean of human blood. Dan Cole, the poacher, saw Mark's pickup, but stayed silent, his flannel scraps a dead end. A 1994 Alberta tip about a man resembling Ben, carrying Claire's photo, was a drifter, Ray, with no connection. A 1983 camper's diary, donated in 1994, described a man like Ben arguing with a woman by the stream, then silence. He sounded desperate, not angry, the camper wrote. Was Ben fighting to save Claire or silence her? The streambed clue, cloth, ring, twine, remained key, its angler's loop tying to Ben or Mark. A 1983 ranger's note about a snapped twig suggested a struggle, but no new evidence emerged. Harper's team felt the truth slipping. Ben's shadow growing. Squamish's 1983 world, rich with nostalgia, grounded the tragedy. Diners buzzed, jukeboxes playing Gordon Lightfoot. CB radios crackled in loggers' trucks, sharing search tales. Vancouver's neon bars, where Mark schemed, contrasted with Garibaldi's misty trails, where Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, searched. Ruth lit candles, her faith fraying. The 1994 probe revived their pain, but Ben's potential betrayal cut deeper. Harper's focus on Mark wavered as a new clue, buried in a ranger's archive, shifted the case. A 1983 ranger's radio tape, found in 1994, captures a man's voice, possibly Ben, saying, "It's done," hours after the scream, chilling Harper's team. A chilling voice whispers, "It's done," on a 1983 tape, a confession frozen in time. The truth hovers just beyond reach, buried in the streambed's gravel. In 1994, the disappearance of Claire Thompson and Ben Larson was a relentless puzzle, its pieces scattered across British Columbia's past. The Newlyweds, whose love shone in Vancouver's rainy streets, vanished from their 1983 Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving a tent open, a journal unfinished, and a mystery that gripped a nation. The RCMP's flawed 1983 search found no trace but a 1994 kayaker's discovery. Claire's ring tied to a bloodied cloth pointed to murder. Sergeant Ellen Harper's cold case team targeted Ben's brother, Mark Larson, whose bloodstained truck and pawned ring screamed guilt. But a 1983 Ranger's radio tape, capturing a man's voice, possibly Ben, saying, "It's done," hours after a scream, cast Ben as a potential traitor. The knife-etched BL, found in the streambed, deepened the doubt. Harper's team, racing against fading memories, chased final clues to unravel the truth, each step a dance with betrayal. The radio tape, found in a 1994 RCMP archive, was a haunting relic. recorded at 11:03 p.m. on July 10, 1983, by a ranger's handheld radio near Cheakamus Lake. It captured static, then a man's voice. "It's done." Audio experts, analyzing. "In 1994, said the voice resembled Ben's, based on a 1983 wedding video where he toasted Claire. The pitch and cadence match, technician Alan Reed told Harper, headphones on. The tape, logged as interference, was ignored in 1983, but its timing, hours after Sarah Conway's scream, suggested Ben's involvement. Was he reporting to Mark, coerced into a crime, or confessing? Claire's letter, noting Ben's fear of Mark, hinted at pressure, but her July 6th journal entry, "Ben's hiding something," gnawed at Harper. Ruth Larson, questioned, recalled Ben's stress pre-trip, saying Mark wouldn't let up. Did Ben lure Claire to the stream or try to save her? Mark's guilt anchored the case, his lies a crumbling wall. The bloodstain on his 1983 truck, type A positive, matched Claire's blood. A pawnshop receipt showed him selling her ring on July 15th. His July 10th alibi was debunked by a co-worker, a Squamish gas receipt, and a bar tab linking him to drifter Pete Walsh. A 1983 hiker's photo placed Mark's pickup near the stream, and a volunteer saw him arguing with a woman. Harper's 1994 probe uncovered Mark's phone records, showing calls to the How Sound Inn, where Walsh drank on July 8th. Mark was asking about trails, the bartender said. A $5,000 cash withdrawal on July 8th suggested a payoff. Mark, interrogated, stuck to his Ben was unstable claim, citing a 1982 fight, but no evidence backed it. The truck's blood and Claire's pawned ring pointed to Mark as the killer, but Ben's tape muddied the narrative. Subplots swirled, each a test of Harper's focus. Pete Walsh, re-interviewed, denied murder, his knife clean. Dan Cole, the poacher, saw Mark's pickup but stayed silent, his flannel a dead end. A 1994 Alberta tip about a man resembling Ben was a drifter, Ray, with Claire's photo, but no link. A 1983 camper's diary noted a man like Ben arguing by the stream, his voice desperate. A 1994 psychic, claiming family betrayal, stirred media but offered no proof. Ruth collapsed, overwhelmed. Cole's camp, rechecked, yielded deer blood. The streambed clue, cloth, ring, twine, remained key, its angler's loop tying to Ben or Mark. A 1983 ranger's note about a snapped twig suggested a struggle, but no new evidence emerged. Harper's team felt the truth close, but Ben's voice haunted them. Squamish's 1983 world, steeped in nostalgia, framed the pain. Diners buzzed, jukeboxes playing Neil Young, CB radios crackled, sharing search tales. Vancouver's neon bars, where Mark schemed, contrasted with Garibaldi's misty trails, where Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, searched. Ruth lit candles, her hope gone. The 1994 probe revived their grief, but Ben's potential guilt cut deep. Harper's focus on Mark was tested by a final clue, buried in the streambed's gravel. A 1994 stream search finds Ben's wallet, buried in gravel with a note inside. "Forgive me, Claire," in Ben's handwriting. Ben's wallet holds a desperate plea for forgiveness, its ink faded but damning. The final truth cuts deeper than the forest's shadows, revealing a killer's heart. In 1994, the disappearance of Claire Thompson and Ben Larson reached its climax, a saga that began in the summer of 1983. The Newlyweds, whose love filled Vancouver's quiet corners, vanished from their Garibaldi Provincial Park campsite, leaving a tent open, a journal unfinished, and a mystery that shattered lives. The RCMP's 1983 search, flawed and frantic, found no trace but a 1994 kayaker's discovery. Claire's ring tied to a bloodied cloth pointed to murder. Sergeant Ellen Harper's cold case team, untangling a decade of errors, targeted Ben's brother, Mark Larson, whose bloodstained truck, pawned ring, and lies screamed guilt. A 1994 stream search found Ben's wallet, buried in gravel, with a note in his handwriting. "Forgive me, Claire." The 1983 Rangers tape, capturing Ben's voice saying, "It's done," and a witness's claim of Ben struggling with Claire, cast him as a potential traitor. Harper's team, racing against time, pieced together the final clues, unearthing a truth as cold as the streambed's currents. The wallet, a scuffed leather bifold, was a devastating find. Buried 6 inches in streambed gravel, 2 miles from the campsite, it held $30, a faded Polaroid of Claire, and the note, "Forgive me, Claire," in Ben's looping script, confirmed by Ruth Larson. The ink, smudged but legible, suggested it was written in 1983, before water sealed it. Harper's team saw 2 possibilities. Ben, guilt-ridden, wrote it after failing to save Claire, or he was complicit in her death, his plea a confession. The Rangers tape, with Ben's voice saying, "It's done," hours after Sarah Conway's scream, leaned toward guilt. But Claire's letter, noting Ben's fear of Mark and her journal, "Ben's hiding something," suggested coercion. A 1983 witness, Linda Hayes, saw a man like Ben struggling with Claire, but her words, "She pushed him," said, "Don't do this," hinted at Ben's reluctance. Harper's team, in a Vancouver evidence room, pieced together Mark's plan, Ben's role, and Claire's fate. Mark Larson's guilt was undeniable, his web of lies collapsing. The bloodstain on his 1983 truck, type A positive, matched Claire's blood. A pawnshop receipt showed him selling her ring on July 15th. His July 10th alibi was debunked by a co-worker, a Squamish gas receipt, and a bar tab linking him to Pete Walsh. A hiker's photo placed Mark's pickup near the stream, and a volunteer saw him arguing with a woman. Phone records showed calls to the How Sound Inn, where Walsh drank. A $5,000 cash withdrawal suggested a payoff. Mark's 1994 interrogation was a breaking point. "Ben did it," he claimed, citing the tape and knife. But Harper pressed harder, showing the truck's bloodstain. Mark's voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." His confession, taped on October 3, 1994, revealed the truth. Mark, driven by greed, lured Claire and Ben to the stream, stabbed Claire in a rage, and coerced Ben into silence, threatening his life. Ben, torn by guilt, fled in 1984, but Mark tracked him, killed him, and hid his body in Garibaldi's depths. The streambed clue, cloth, ring, twine, was Mark's misdirection. He planted the ring and cloth in 1983, hoping to frame a bear attack or drifter. The twine's angler's loop, learned from childhood fishing with Ben, was a cruel touch. The knife, etched BL, was stolen from Ben's gear to shift blame. Pete Walsh, paid to scare campers, knew nothing of murder, his knife clean. Dan Cole, the poacher, saw Mark's pickup but stayed silent, his flannel a coincidence. The Alberta tip about a man like Ben was a drifter ray, with Claire's photo, a red herring. The camper's diary, witness statements, and tape painted. Ben is conflicted, coerced by Mark, unable to save Claire, his note a plea for absolution. Harper's team, closing the case, found no bodies, but a 1995 hiker's discovery, bones in Garibaldi, likely Ben's, offered partial closure. Squamish's 1983 world, steeped in nostalgia, framed the tragedy. Diners buzzed, jukeboxes playing Neil Young. CB radios crackled, sharing search tales. Vancouver's neon bars, where Mark schemed, contrasted with Garibaldi's misty trails, where Claire's parents, Ed and Margaret, searched. Ruth disowned Mark, her candles unlit. The 1994 probe ended. In a Vancouver courtroom, Mark sentenced to life, his confession a hollow victory. Claire's parents held a memorial, scattering flowers by the stream. The forest, vast and silent, kept Claire's body, its secrets eternal. Ben's note, and his tape, left ambiguity. Was he victim or accomplice? The truth, a mix of greed and betrayal, cut deep, a warning to cherish love over gold. A 1995 tip, unverified, claims a woman resembling Claire was seen in Seattle, leaving a faint, haunting hope that she survived. Thanks for sticking with Flicker Soul's story until the end. If you enjoyed it, give this a like and share if you haven't already, and subscribe for more.